Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy my new stories every day. I always thought our marriage was solid. Lisa and I met when we were in our 20s, both ambitious and full of hope for the future. She had this magnetic personality that drew people in, me included. When we started dating, I was sure I had hit the jackpot. A decade later, we had 2 kids, a beautiful home, and a life I thought was something to be proud of. But I guess I had been wearing blinders all along. The first crack in the perfect picture came on a sunny afternoon, just a regular day. We were heading out on a family road trip. Lisa, ever the planner, had mapped out the entire journey to a cabin in the mountains. The kids were excited in the back seat, chattering about the adventures we were going to have. It should have been an ordinary stop at a gas station. Lisa said she needed to use the bathroom, and I figured I'd stretch my legs and grab a coffee. When she left her phone in the passenger seat, I didn't think much of it at first. Then it lit up. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't the paranoid husband, always checking up on her. But the message popped up so clearly on the screen, and before I knew it, I had read it. Can't wait to see you again. Just 6 words, sent from a number I didn't recognize. My stomach twisted, and I remember just staring at the phone, trying to make sense of it. Could it be innocent? A friend, maybe? No, something felt off. Before I could process what I was seeing, Lisa came running out of the gas station, practically sprinting toward the car. Her face was pale, and her eyes were wide as she snatched the phone out of my hand without a word. She mumbled something about forgetting her phone, but the way she did it, the panic in her movements, set off alarm bells in my head. Why was she so desperate to get that phone back? Why didn't she look me in the eye? I didn't ask her anything then. We had the kids with us, and I didn't want to ruin the trip by starting an argument. Instead, I stuffed the suspicion deep down, telling myself I was overreacting. But the feeling sat there, gnawing at me through the entire vacation. That week in the mountains was supposed to be about family, a break from the daily grind. But instead, Lisa was glued to her phone. She tried to play it off, saying she was just checking work emails, but I wasn't buying it. Not after what I saw. Every time I saw her typing away or caught a glimpse of a smile she didn't think I noticed, my chest tightened. I started to wonder who she was messaging. Was it the same person who had sent that text? I could have confronted her right then. I could have demanded an explanation. But something stopped me. Maybe I was afraid of what I'd hear. Maybe part of me still wanted to believe in the life we had built together. So, I let it go, for the moment. When we got home, I waited for the right time to bring it up. I watched her closely, seeing if she'd slip, if she'd mention anything. But she didn't. She kept acting like everything was normal. And maybe it would have been, had I not decided to dig a little deeper. Late one night, while Lisa was asleep, I took her phone again. This time, I wasn't waiting for a message to pop up. I went straight into her recent calls and texts. It didn't take long to find him. His name was Brad, and the messages weren't just flirtatious, they were explicit. He wasn't just a casual acquaintance or a coworker she was venting to. They were meeting up, sneaking around behind my back. And it wasn't a one-time thing. It had been going on for months. I remember feeling sick, my hands shaking as I scrolled through the messages. I wasn't just reading words. I was reading the destruction of everything I had believed in, everything I had built. The late nights at the office, the trips out of town she claimed were for work, none of it had been true. She was with him, laughing, smiling, sleeping with him while I stayed home with our kids, clueless. In that moment, I wanted to storm into the bedroom, wake her up, and demand answers. I wanted to shout, to throw things, to make her feel the same pain I was feeling. But I didn't. I put the phone down, turned off the screen, and walked back to our room as if nothing had happened. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? The woman lying next to me, the mother of my children, was a stranger. A liar. A cheater. For the next few days, I went through the motions of life in a fog. I pretended like everything was fine, just like she did. I smiled when I needed to, made small talk with Lisa, and even kissed her goodbye in the mornings. But inside, I was planning. I wasn't going to just confront her, have some tearful argument where she'd deny it or worse, blame me. No, I was going to take control of the situation. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. I started to think about what kind of revenge would hurt her the most. Not petty, not violent. Something deeper, something that would leave a lasting mark. I wanted her to feel the same kind of betrayal she had made me feel. It didn't take long to come up with a plan. I would play the perfect husband for a little longer, make her think everything was fine. And then I would strike when she least expected it. One evening, while we were having dinner, I casually suggested we take a weekend away, just the two of us. She hesitated at first, probably because of Brad, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. Maybe she thought I was trying to fix our marriage, that I was oblivious to what was really going on. After all, I hadn't said a word about the phone or the texts. She agreed, smiling that sweet smile that used to make me melt. Now, it just made me sick. The cabin I booked was remote, miles from anywhere. I told her it would be a chance for us to reconnect, to get away from all the distractions. Little did she know, I had chosen the place because there would be no cell service. No way for her to sneak off and message Brad. It was going to be just me and her, alone with the truth. As the weekend approached, I could feel my anticipation building. Not because I was looking forward to the trip, but because I knew this would be the moment I took my life back. Lisa had no idea what was coming. She thought she still had the upper hand, that I was oblivious. But she was wrong. I was done being the fool. The cabin was perfect, isolated from the world. Tall pines surrounded the place, and the air had a crisp, clean chill to it. It felt like the kind of getaway where you could lose yourself, reset. That's what Lisa thought, at least. She was smiling when we pulled up, already talking about how she wanted to hike some of the trails, maybe do some yoga outside in the morning. I nodded along, playing my part, but inside, my mind was already on what was going to happen. We unpacked the car and settled into the cabin. It was small but comfortable, one of those rustic, cozy places with a fireplace and wide windows looking out into the woods. I had chosen it specifically because it felt secluded. No Wi-Fi, no cell reception. Just the two of us. And that was all part of my plan. I wanted her to feel comfortable, relaxed, like she was in control. After unpacking, I poured us both a glass of wine and suggested we sit by the fire. She was in a good mood, laughing as she kicked off her shoes and curled up on the couch. For a second, I almost believed we were just a normal couple on vacation. Almost. But every time I looked at her, the image of those texts flashed in my mind. I couldn't shake the thought of her with Brad, how she must have looked at him the way she was looking at me now, smiling, pretending everything was fine. So, she said, breaking the silence. This is nice, huh? Just the two of us. I feel like we haven't done something like this in forever. She sipped her wine, her eyes meeting mine over the rim of the glass. I smiled, keeping it light. Yeah, it's nice. I think we needed this. My voice sounded normal, even to me. No hint of the rage simmering just beneath the surface. She leaned back, letting out a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot lately, you know. About us, about our marriage. Her voice took on that serious tone, the one she used when she wanted to discuss feelings. But I knew better now. I knew what she was really thinking. Oh. I asked, playing along. What have you been thinking? She hesitated, glancing at the fire for a moment before looking back at me. Just that. I don't want to take us for granted. I know things have been tough lately with work and the kids and everything. But I don't want us to lose what we have. It was an impressive performance. If I didn't know better, I would have believed her. She even had that concerned look on her face, the one that made her seem so sincere. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. I get it, I said, nodding. It's easy to get caught up in everything and forget what's important. That's why I thought this trip would be good for us. A chance to reconnect. She smiled, her hand reaching out to rest on mine. I'm really glad you planned this. I think it's exactly what we need. The irony of the moment hit me hard. Here she was, talking about saving our marriage, while she had been sneaking around with another man for months. It took everything in me not to yank my hand away from hers. Instead, I just smiled back and took another sip of my wine. I couldn't let her see the anger yet. Not until I was ready. Later that night, after dinner, we sat by the fire again. The wine had loosened her up, and she was more talkative, rambling on about work and her friends. I pretended to listen, nodding in the right places, but I was biding my time. I had already decided that I wasn't going to confront her tonight. No, I wanted her to feel completely comfortable, to believe that everything was fine. That way, when I finally dropped the bomb, it would hit her even harder. When we went to bed, she snuggled up against me, her head resting on my chest. It was a familiar position, one that used to bring me comfort. But now it just made me feel sick. How many times had she done this with me after spending the day with Brad? How many nights had she come home to me, kissed me goodnight, and acted like nothing was wrong? The thought made my skin crawl. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Her breathing was steady, deep. She was out cold. I wished I could feel the same kind of peace, the same kind of detachment. But all I could think about was how I was going to ruin her. She had no idea what was coming, and that gave me a sense of control that I hadn't felt in months. I was finally in the driver's seat. The next morning, she woke up early, eager to go for a hike. I played along, putting on my hiking boots and filling up a water bottle, all while pretending like everything was fine. The truth was, I was just waiting. I knew I'd have my moment soon enough. We spent the day exploring the trails, and for the most part, it was like old times. She was chatty, playful, and every now and then, she'd stop to kiss me on the cheek or grab my hand. It was all so normal, so routine. But I knew that this would be the last time we'd ever do something like this. That evening, after another round of wine by the fire, I decided it was time. She was relaxed, her defenses completely down. I watched her as she laughed at something I said, the firelight flickering across her face. For a moment, I almost didn't want to do it. Almost. "Lisa," I said, keeping my tone casual. "There's something I need to talk to you about." She looked at me, her smile fading slightly. "What is it?" I took a deep breath, setting my wine glass down on the table. "I know about Brad." Her face went pale instantly, the color draining so quickly it was almost impressive. She blinked at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. What are you talking about?" "I know about the texts, the late nights. All of it. I know you've been cheating on me, Lisa." For a second, she didn't say anything. She just sat there, staring at me in stunned silence. Then, the tears came. Big, fat tears rolling down her cheeks as she shook her head, trying to deny it. "No, Mark, you don't understand. It's not what you think." "Oh, I think it's exactly what I think," I said, my voice colder now. "Don't even bother trying to lie your way out of this. I've seen the messages. I know everything." She started to sob, her hands covering her face as she hunched over on the couch. It was a pathetic sight, really. For months she had been so confident, so sure she had me fooled. But now, here she was, falling apart the second I called her out. "Please, Mark," she whimpered. "I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I laughed bitterly. A mistake. Months of sneaking around behind my back is a mistake. Don't insult me, Lisa. You made your choice. She sobbed harder, her shoulders shaking as she cried into her hands. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for her, but that part was small and drowned out by the overwhelming sense of betrayal and rage that had been building inside me for so long. You've been lying to me for months, I continued, my voice steady and controlled. But now, I'm done. I'm not going to be the fool anymore. She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears, her eyes wide with panic. Please, Mark, don't leave me. I'll do anything. I'll end it with Brad. I'll make it right. Just please, don't leave. I stood up, looking down at her as she sat there, broken and desperate. I'm not leaving, I said, my voice firm. But you are. Her eyes widened in shock. What? No, you can't. Oh, I can, I interrupted. You see, Lisa, I've been planning this for a while. I've already spoken to a lawyer. Divorce papers are ready. You'll sign them, and you'll leave. End of story. The look on her face was priceless. Shock, disbelief, and then pure terror. She knew I wasn't bluffing. She knew I had her cornered. She tried to argue, to beg, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. I had heard enough lies to last me a lifetime. She stared at me, eyes wide, mouth open, like she couldn't believe the words coming out of my mouth. I didn't move, didn't flinch. I'd practiced this moment in my head too many times, and now it was playing out exactly how I imagined it would. What do you mean? She whispered, her voice breaking. You've already talked to a lawyer? I nodded slowly, savoring the way her panic rose, the way her face twisted as she tried to process everything. That's right. I've got everything lined up. All you have to do is sign the papers. Mark, no. Please. We can fix this. Her voice cracked again, tears streaming down her cheeks. She reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back, out of her reach. The desperation in her eyes didn't move me. I wasn't that guy anymore, the one who would have caved at her tears, who would have softened when she said, please. That guy was gone. I gave you everything, Lisa, I said, my voice steady. A home, a family, a life. And you threw it all away. You've been lying to me for months, maybe even longer. Don't stand here and pretend you care about fixing anything now. You only care because you got caught. She dropped her head into her hands, sobbing openly now. It should have made me feel something, anything. But I just stood there, cold and detached, watching as she crumbled in front of me. I walked to the window, staring out at the thick trees, the moonlight casting long shadows across the ground. You thought you could hide it forever, didn't you? I continued. You thought I wouldn't notice. But you were careless. I saw the messages. I know what you've been doing with Brad. The sneaking around, the lying, all of it. I was stupid, she cried, her voice muffled by her hands. I was so stupid, Mark. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. It just happened. I repeated, turning to face her again. That's your excuse. You just accidentally fell into bed with him over and over again. She lifted her head, her face a mess of tears and snot. No. It wasn't like that. It wasn't just about sex. It was. I don't know. I was lonely, okay? You were always working, always busy with everything else. I felt neglected. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. So, that's it. You felt neglected, so you cheated. Classic. I crossed my arms, shaking my head. You think I wasn't busy because I wanted to be? I was working to provide for this family. I was trying to make sure we had everything we needed, that you had everything you wanted. And this is how you repay me. I know I was wrong, she sobbed. I know I messed up. But please, Mark, don't throw us away. Don't throw away what we've built. I let out a long, slow breath. You already threw it away. The minute you decided to sleep with him, you destroyed everything we had. She stood up then, her legs shaky, but her voice more controlled as she spoke. You don't understand, Mark. I was lost. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. It felt like we were just going through the motions. I needed to feel something again, something, alive. Alive? I spat. And screwing Brad was the answer to that. That's what made you feel alive. She flinched at my words, but she didn't back down. Yes. It made me feel something, Mark. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. I shook my head, disgusted. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted. You felt alive. But now, it's over. No, she whispered, stepping closer to me. It doesn't have to be. We can still fix this. Please, just give me a chance. I'll end it with Brad. I'll never speak to him again. I'll do anything. Just don't leave me. I stared at her for a long time, my anger simmering, but underneath it, a strange sense of calm was settling in. This was the moment of power I'd been waiting for, the moment when she realized she wasn't in control anymore. I was. You'll do anything, huh? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Yes, she nodded quickly, her hands trembling as she reached out again. Anything. I let the silence hang between us for a moment, watching her squirm, watching her grasp at whatever she thought she could say to fix this. But there was no fixing it. Not really. I don't want you to do anything, I said quietly. I just want you to leave. She froze, her face falling as the reality of my words hit her. No. Mark, please. Don't say that. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes. It's too late for that, I said, stepping closer to her now, my voice firm. I've already made up my mind. Her tears came harder then, her body shaking as she fell to her knees in front of me. Please, Mark, she sobbed. Please don't do this. I love you. I'm so sorry. I was stupid, but I love you. I don't want to lose you. I crouched down to her level, looking her straight in the eyes. You lost me the day you decided to cheat, Lisa. That's when you lost me. She collapsed into more sobs, but I didn't care. I stood up and walked to the fireplace, watching the flames dance for a moment before speaking again. I'm not going to make this difficult for you. I've already spoken to a lawyer, and we can do this as cleanly as possible. The kids will be fine. I'll make sure of that. But I'm done, Lisa. I'm done with you. She stayed on the floor, weeping into her hands, her body shaking with each sob. For a moment, I felt a flicker of pity, but it was gone as quickly as it had come. This was the bed she had made, and now she had to lie in it. I'll give you some time, I said, my voice colder than before. Pack your things. Figure out where you're going to stay. But when we get back from this trip, I want you out of the house. Do you understand? She didn't respond right away, just kept crying into her hands. But eventually, she nodded, her head bobbing up and down as the reality of her situation sank in. I walked to the door, grabbing my jacket. I'm going for a walk, I said. When I come back, I expect you to be calm, because we're done talking about this. I left her there, on the floor, crying and broken. But as I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt nothing but relief. This was the closure I had been waiting for, the moment where I finally took my life back. As I walked into the darkness, the trees rustling in the wind, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was free. Free from the lies, free from the betrayal. And as I made my way down the trail, I knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life, one where I would never be anyone's fool again. The walk through the woods was meant to clear my head, to cement the feeling of closure I thought I had finally achieved. The air was cold, crisp enough to bite at my skin, but it felt good. It grounded me, reminded me that I was still in control. I had won. For the first time in months, I didn't feel the knot of anger in my stomach. I didn't feel the overwhelming sense of betrayal that had haunted me since the day I discovered Lisa's affair. I was free from it all. Or so I thought. The cabin loomed ahead of me, warm light spilling through the windows. I could see her shadow inside, moving around, probably packing like I'd told her to. I expected to find her still in tears, still broken, still begging. That was fine with me. I had no sympathy left to offer. But as I approached the front door, something shifted. A small, almost imperceptible sound caught my attention. Footsteps. In the distance. It wasn't an animal, and it wasn't just the wind. I froze, listening, my breath hanging in the cold night air. Then, there it was again. Someone was out here. I stepped off the path, walking quietly toward the sound. My heart started to pound, not out of fear, but out of instinct. This was my territory now, and whoever was out here didn't belong. I rounded the corner of the cabin and stopped short. There, standing just behind a tree, was Brad. He hadn't seen me yet. He was dressed in a black jacket, hunched over, as if he was trying to stay hidden. His breath clouded in front of him as he watched the cabin intently, eyes fixed on the windows, waiting. My blood ran cold, not with shock, but with realization. Lisa hadn't been crying and begging me to stay. She hadn't been sorry about what she did. This entire time, while I thought I was controlling the situation, she had been playing me. She had been waiting for him. I stepped forward, my foot crunching on a patch of leaves. His head snapped around, and our eyes locked. For a moment, neither of us moved, just stood there in the dark, the tension between us so thick it could have been cut with a knife. "What the hell are you doing here?" I finally asked, my voice low, dangerous. Brad straightened up, his face hardening, like he had expected this. "I came for Lisa," he said simply. The rage that I thought I'd buried came roaring back, hotter and more intense than before. "You've got some nerve," I spat. "You think you can just waltz in here after everything?" He didn't flinch. He just stared at me, a slight smirk pulling at the corner of his mouth. "I didn't come here to fight you, Mark. I came to get her. She called me." "Called you?" The words barely registered, but as soon as they did, I felt the ground shift beneath me. "You've been talking to her?" "She told me everything," Brad said, his voice calm, steady. "About how you found out. About the divorce. She said she's leaving with me." My hands balled into fists at my sides. I wanted to lunge at him, to knock that smug look off his face, but I held back. I had to hear this. "You really think she's leaving with you?" I asked, forcing myself to stay calm. "After everything she did?" Brad shrugged. "She's not happy with you, Mark. She hasn't been for a long time. You know that." Something in me snapped. I was done with the lies, done with the manipulation. "No," I said, my voice cold. "You don't get to walk in here and act like you've won. She's not leaving with you. She's going to pack her things and get the hell out of both of our lives." Brad opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, the cabin door creaked open. We both turned to see Lisa standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with surprise. "Brad," she whispered, stepping out onto the porch. "What are you doing here?" "I came for you," he said, his voice softening. "Like you asked." For a split second, I saw the guilt flash across her face, but it was gone just as quickly as it came. She stepped down from the porch, walking toward us. "You shouldn't have come," she said, glancing at me. This wasn't supposed to happen like this." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice tightening. "What wasn't supposed to happen?" Lisa hesitated, her eyes darting between me and Brad. For a moment, she looked unsure, like she didn't know what to say. But then her expression hardened, and she took a deep breath. "I was going to tell you," she said quietly. "I was going to leave you, Mark. I didn't know how." "Tell me what?" I demanded, taking a step toward her. She closed her eyes for a moment, gathering herself. When she opened them again, she looked straight at me, her voice low but firm. "I'm pregnant." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I staggered back, the world spinning around me. "What?" "I'm pregnant," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's Brad's." For a moment, the world went silent. Everything around me, the trees, the wind, the cabin, faded into the background. All I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Pregnant. With his child. I stared at her, my mind struggling to process the words. She was pregnant with Brad's child. All this time, while I had been planning my revenge, while I had been so sure I was in control, she had been hiding this from me. This was her trump card. "I'm sorry," she said, stepping toward me. "I didn't want it to be like this, Mark. I didn't want to hurt you. But I can't stay. I have to go with him." The finality of her words was like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just leaving me, she was starting a new life with him, with the child they had created behind my back. All of it, everything I thought I had taken control of, had been a lie. I looked at Brad, who was standing there, silent and smug. He had won. He had taken everything from me. And there was nothing I could do to change it. I let out a slow, shuddering breath, my anger dissolving into something darker, something emptier. "Go," I said quietly. "Both of you. Get out." Lisa hesitated, her eyes pleading, but I didn't care anymore. I had nothing left to give her. She had made her choice, and now, she could live with it. Without another word, she turned and walked toward Brad. He wrapped his arm around her, guiding her away from the cabin, away from me. I watched them go, disappearing into the darkness, their shadows swallowed by the night. And as they walked away, I realized something. The revenge I had so carefully planned, the power I thought I had, none of it mattered. In the end, I had lost everything. And I was alone. The silence of the woods closed in around me, and for the first time, I felt the weight of it. The weight of the betrayal, the lies, the loss. And as I stood there, staring into the dark, I realized that this was my life now. A life I would have to rebuild, piece by broken piece. Alone. But maybe that was the surprise I hadn't seen coming. Maybe that was the real end of the story.